Good afternoon and welcome to the 188th episode of the Georgia Farm Bureau Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. It's our second show back of 2023, and we have a great lineup today with three guests. The first one, we're going to continue our coverage of all the coaching changes, and it's going to be Korey Mobbs. He's taking over Jackson County after a 2-year stint in Tennessee. Mobbs is a Parkview graduate. He notably led Lanier to a lot of success. They had 1 year where they didn't make the playoffs. That was 2020 when they were impacted with all the COVID stuff. Just kind of had a tough season. I think they might have finished 6-4 and missed the playoffs. He went to Tennessee for 2 years, and now he is back. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to talking to him. Then we're going to have Shanteona on, a really special guest. And you just look at what she's done throughout her playing career, what she's done for the sport of basketball so far. It is really exciting. She has a very bright future. She'll be the second guest. Then we're going to be joined by Jordan Dubrof in the final slot. Haven't talked to Jordan all year, so that'll be excited to see what's on his radar. But let me just go over Shanteona's kind of resume. I want to set that before we bring her on as a second guest. So she went to Roswell High School, was an absolute standout player there. She ended up earning Player of the Year her senior season, and then she got a scholarship at Georgia College. Not only was she a 4-year starter there, their all-time leading scorer, she positioned herself in a role with the athletic department, with the sports information department. She majored in broadcast journalism, and then she also was pretty much an ambassador for the Sun Belt Conference. So she was really involved with the operations side of basketball, joining a lot of committees, a lot of groups. So I'll just go over a couple of it right here. Oh yeah, and she was the valedictorian. Very impressive. So I think that's what's so special about her. When you have someone that really sees sports as an opportunity to take that community action and kind of not just focus on what you're doing on the court, but really trying to understand what makes, as they say, the straw that makes the drink stir, or something like that. I'm butchering that. But anyway, so she joined the Women's Basketball Coaches Association right after her playing days. She ended up being an assistant coach at Georgia College. Then about 2016, she helped at Score Atlanta. She worked with Rhonda Rouse as our creative art director assistant. She did a lot of stuff with us, and then she got into coaching again and took over the Cambridge job. But then at Georgia College, she was the valedictorian, as I said. 2015 Peach Belt, sorry, I said Sun Belt. Peach Belt Conference Scholar Athlete of the Year. 2-time Capital One Academic All-American. She earned all conference honors every year and was the Women's Basketball Coaches Association All-American Honorable Mention her senior year. She was a representative on the NCAA Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So just really outstanding what she's been able to do. And then she was honored, I believe it was last month, by her alma mater, Roswell, and she was inducted into the Roswell Athletic Hall of Fame. So we will definitely talk to her about that. But yeah, let's go back to football and these coaching changes. There was some news that broke, I believe it was today or maybe last night. Grayson has filled that role. They brought on Gainesville assistant coach Santavius Bryant. Yeah, that was Thursday evening. So Grayson has found their new head coach. And then Grayson's defensive coordinator last year, Danny Carlisle, he took over the Chattahoochee job. So Grayson's been at the center of a lot of this movement on the coaching carousel. And then that's working itself out right now. Their former coordinator going over to Chattahoochee, and then them bringing in Gainesville's assistant. So that's a big hire right there. Let's see. Friday also saw Decula, Walker, and Central Macon make their hires. And the AJC rightfully called this the busiest week for coaching changes so far this offseason. Also, gosh, this week we saw Allatona's Gary Varner retire. I didn't realize he was battling, I believe, cancer throughout last season, having to call a bunch of the games from the box just to handle kind of his health, his energy level, and all the stress of the job. But he leaves Allatoona just a outstanding career there. Really helped turn them into a Cobb County powerhouse. I believe they were the first Cobb team to win a state title since Marietta back in like the 50s. And so let's see what year that was. I'll multitask on that. Another Cobb County move, Franklin Stevens, he stepped down from McEachern, and then he just took over the Burke County job. That is his alma mater. He was an absolute stud at Burke County as a starting center, then went to play at Georgia Southern, and not too far from Burke County. And then we know what he's done in the coaching world at Tucker, Lamar County, Ware County, McEachern, and now he will be back at Burke. So yeah, Allatoona won that state title in 2015. That was a 14-1 season. They lost their opener to East Paulding, won 14 straight, including a 10-6 defensive battle over Glenn Academy. I believe that was the team that had, was that DJ Dallas? Let's see, who of course is now in the, nope, that was before DJ Dallas, but yeah. So that was a big win for Allatoona. Gary Varner's been an outstanding coach there, so that's another very big job that opened up. And yeah, Coach Varner was dealing with his health, just battling through last season. But I mean, the team itself, Allatoona, they battled last year. They started off very slow, and then they came alive. They had multiple shutouts in a row, went into the playoffs, beat a really good Douglas County team, and then eventually fell short. Also, Darlington's Tommy Atha, I think that one is still open. We saw Collins Hill's Lenny Gregory step down. He accepted the job at Gordon Central. That was a really interesting one. I think Gordon Central was 0-10 last year, so that'll be a challenge for him. That's a school located right over by Calhoun in that area. Calhoun, of course, the city school, the bigger school. Gordon Central, though, they do have a lot of talent in that area, so we'll see what he's able to do there. And then Sean O'Sullivan, he resigned at Centennial and says he's taken an unnamed job elsewhere. So he has gotten hired. I think we just don't know yet. Let's go back to Santavius Bryant, though, and why this hire makes sense. So Santavius actually is familiar with the Grayson program. He was on Grayson's staff from 2019 to 2021 as a defensive backs coach, and then he was the same position at Gainesville, handled the defensive backs, and was the defensive passing game coordinator. We'll see kind of if anyone else comes over from Gainesville, or if those connections just from his previous stint at Grayson make sense and they're going to stay in place. I think that's probably going to be the case. Obviously, Gainesville had just an unbelievable season this last year, and he is a Wheeler graduate, and he also coached at Wheeler from 2017 to 2018. So that's an exciting opportunity for him. Man, your first head coaching role is at Grayson. That is huge. Let's see if anyone else broke. Oh yeah, Reggie Stansel. He took over as Decula's head coach. I know Reggie was at Peachtree Ridge. I'm going to see if that was... Yeah, that was before Matt Helmrich, the former Johns Creek coach, took over. And so Reggie was at Peachtree Ridge for about 5 seasons. Led them to 3-7 record in his final season. I don't think he was a head coach last year anywhere else. No, so he's back in the head coaching role at Decula High School, so he stays in Gwinnett County. And then Stansel was also on McEachern's. Oh yeah, he was on McEachern's staff last season, so that kind of makes sense where that movement came. Once Franklin Stevens was out at McEachern, they're in a search for a new head coach. The Decula job opens, he jumps on that, going back to Gwinnett County from Cobb. So still a lot in the coaching department that is to be determined. Also Walker, they promoted within the Wolverines program. Offensive coordinator TJ Anderson is going to take over head coach. And then we talked about Salem's coach Jarrett Laws after a really successful stint at Salem. He stepped down, and then he is the new head coach at Central Macon. Also, it looks like a couple more jobs opened up, Clarkston and then Eagles Landing and Jackson. So, I mean, rightfully said by our colleagues at the AJC, probably the biggest week of the offseason yet, but still lots to be determined. And we'll get into that with Jordan. I'm just going to ask him about kind of which ones surprised him the most, which ones he's looking forward to seeing get filled. If I had to say which ones have surprised me the most, I've got to go with North Gwinnett. I thought that was unexpected. Coach Stewart stepping down, especially because he jumped and went to that Georgia Tech position. Wasn't like he took another head coaching job here. So something really big is going on there. Same with Tim McFarland going there. I thought that was interesting, and you just can't discount that they're two state championship coaches leaving their programs and then going to the Georgia Tech roles. Something enticing, something exciting is certainly happening there. I know they wouldn't go if it wasn't a challenge they were ready to accept. The other surprising one, I thought the Newton one surprised me. Camille Grant. Newton had a really solid season last year. They were competitive in that outstanding region. So that was one of those situations where your coach isn't forced out. So maybe another opportunity is kind of on his mind. He wants to put his hat in the ring with some of these other big opportunities. And then the Blessed Trinity job, obviously one of the big ones, opened with Tom Hall stepping down, and then that interview process ongoing. And then the big one we talked about on Wednesday, Warner Robins to Peach County with Marquise Westbrook. So we'll go ahead and just bring Korey Mobbs on right now. We'll go to a commercial break after this. Coach Mobbs, how's it going?
Going great. How you guys doing?
Doing well. So you're back in Georgia. Just talk about these last 2 years in Tennessee. I mean, certainly you're watching what's going on in the state here, but just to see an opportunity open up, being able to come back here, bring your family back to Georgia.
Yeah, obviously spent 12 years at Lanier High School, a time that was very near and dear to my heart, and kind of jumped on an opportunity in Knoxville, Division II AAA private league, which was, a little different for me, and a very competitive league. 2 years that, we were able to make playoffs. But, I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it's good to be back in Georgia and excited about what we got going here at Jackson County High School.
Yeah, talk a little bit about the Jackson County program, like how familiar you were with it before putting your hat in the ring for this job, and then what you've just seen from the program since being there.
Yeah, so, I think what's neat about Jackson County, this area is growing like crazy. Even an example, they built the school for a certain number of kids, and we were already too big for this brand new school that opened 2 years ago. So with growth come, certain issues, but I think, with that being said, it's a great time to be here. I think there's, as Gwinnett has grown so big, people have moved to Hall and Forsyth and now Jackson County. So I think we're seeing the benefit of that, and pretty familiar with the community. When I graduated from Parkview in 1999, my parents moved out to Jackson County. At the time, I thought, man, where in the world are y'all moving? And watching this area kind of grow over the last 20 plus years has been it's been pretty cool, and it's not done. And I think it's a great time to be a Panther, and just going to try to take this thing to the next level every single day.
Yeah, and you aren't kidding. I mean, you've seen it since your parents were there, but I mean, you look at it, that was a Class 2A school in 2011. Now they're all the way up in Class 6A for the first year last year. So, I mean, how exciting is that? And then just being in the same region as your former school, Lanier.
Yeah, it's exciting, a lot of respect for this region. Many of these teams familiar with kind of through our journey at Lanier as we grew as well. I think that was what was really important for us at Lanier is we not that we were intimidated by 7A, but at the same time we were able to grow through time and kind of stay in some lower classifications and work our way up. And so I think Jackson County's done the same thing. Very exciting to be playing Lanier. Tyler Maloof's going to do a great job there. Still some of the guys that were on my staff are still there at Lanier. So, that'll be a little different. But this region is really strong. Obviously Gainesville with the resurgence last year. And so, it'll be a challenge, but I do think this is a great time to be at Jackson County.
Yeah, and what was that like, though, going from being a head coach in Gwinnett County, it's one of the biggest school districts in the country, then going to a private school? I mean, how different was that just from a head coaching point of view?
Yeah, it's a good bit different. I think probably it was more different than I was ready for because, when you move states, the continuity that you have staff-wise, it's really tough for those guys, to decide, hey, we're going to up and move as well, right? So we made that effort, but at the same time, they had, good jobs where they were, good paying jobs, I guess would be a good way to say it. So trying to put a staff together in an area that, you're not as familiar with is a challenge. And then you take that from public school. I've been a public school guy for 18 years, and then you go, you live the private school world for 2 years. It was just a different dynamic for me. A lot of good things, a lot of things that, I certainly would have changed in my 2 years there. But I think it's all part of the journey. Some of it I think you revert back to, my last season at Lanier was kind of, we were in the middle of the whole COVID deal. Probably created a little bit of burnout for me, if I'm being honest. And so, having been at Lanier for 12 and 7 as the head coach, was just ready for a new challenge and certainly got that in Tennessee, but glad to be back in the great state of Georgia.
Yeah, and even if you didn't bring that up, I was thinking the exact same thing. You guys got hit really hard that season, just all those different obstacles, frustrating 2020 season. I think you guys didn't even play the full schedule, so had to been nice, though, just going to a different state, going to a private school, getting to kind of start a new challenge, and then being able to come back here. So, I mean, what did those 2 years kind of mean, just taking a step back and then being able to kind of come in, revitalize, refocus, just ready to get going again?
I'll be honest, I think it allowed me to realize how great the state of Georgia is when it comes to high school football. I think a lot of the things that are taken for granted elsewhere, and that's not to say anything, negatively, but since I'd been in it for 18 years, maybe I took those for granted about, man, football means a lot to a lot of places here in this state. Even, from small to big, there's certain expectations, from a community standpoint that people are used to in Georgia. So, those 2 years more than anything have re-energized me to be back here. We felt like at Lanier when we opened in 2010, we had a great plan to build that thing from the ground up, and we really did that. A lot of that credit goes to Coach Billy Wells, who was our inaugural head coach. And, so with that being said, I feel like I'm re-energized to kind of do that thing here at Jackson County. And although this is not a brand new school, we do have a brand new building, and so it kind of gives us a shot in the arm, from a aesthetic standpoint. But no, it's not going to change. It's going to be about hard work. It's going to be about day-to-day grind in the weight room. Everything starts in the weight room. But I'm really excited and really feel re-energized personally to be here.
Yep, and then Rich McCorder was there. He was Charlton County's longtime coach, won tons of state titles. He goes there. I know he brought that championship mindset there as the program's kind of moving up the ranks in terms of the classification. So just what was the overall sense once McCorder stepped down, you enter this process? I mean, what did kind of the buzz around the program and what the potential is for it kind of feel like
Yeah,
to
I
you?
think that's a good question. So, saw that he had stepped down and so was contacted by these folks and have been fortunate to have worked with some folks here in Jackson County that were old Gwinnett people. And, I'm a firm believer that, relationships matter everywhere you go. And so there's never a bridge to burn. And so obviously I think that helped. And so got the chance to interview, for some reason was humbled enough to be offered the job, and so excited to be here. I think this community is ready to kind of take the next step. I think there's been times where they haven't necessarily known what that looks like, and so with that being said, a lot of respect for Coach McCorder, who I believe is maybe number 2 all time from a winning standpoint, and most of those are in Charlton County. A lot of great teams he had there, and so just blessed to be the guy that follows him and try to take this thing to the next step. But I'm excited about our community. Administration has done a super job of allowing me to do the things I need to do to try to put a staff together, and that's always an ongoing process. And so and feel like my face has been on fire for the last couple of weeks, which that happens when you take a new job. But as that shiny luster kind of fades away, I told the kids in the weight room the other day, who are you going to be when it's 3 months from now, and I'm not the new guy anymore. So excited about again trying to take that next step.
Yeah, with McCorder, I mean, he had over 300 career wins. So if you just think about that, that's, let's say, 10 wins for 30 years. I mean, that's how long he was in the game. That's definitely impressive. But
Absolutely.
what stands out, just when I think back to when you were coaching at Lanier, you guys were just so good defensively, so many outstanding players. So in terms of building a defense at Jackson County, at Lanier, it's like you guys had so many big-time prospects, just big-time players, some of the most highly sought-after guys in the country. So, I mean, how do you take that approach to build a kind of unit that's going to be able to compete at this level, but also try to find those guys that are going to help take you guys to the next level?
Yeah, so I think some of that comes with the growth, when you talk about players. And then also, this place needs to be seen as a destination place. And I think that's going to be evident in, number one, how we treat the kids, what we expect from the kids, how we promote the program in the right way. With that being said, I'm not a guy that's, I want to make sure I say this the right. The big thing right now is, kids moving around, transfer portal, all this junk. I truly, firmly believe that, if kids come to your program, it's because you're doing the right things. And I know there's some folks that maybe are doing it differently, and I'll just leave it at that. But with that being said, going back to your defense question, it's about being relentless. It's about playing your tail off, running to the football. We were very fortunate at Lanier to have some excellent players. I think a lot of that started with the ability for us to keep Derek Brown in the program and him not go elsewhere, even when that was put in his face early on as a youngster. And so, we had some young kids come through the program that said, man, if Derek Brown can go to school there, I can go to school there too. And then we just kind of took off from there. But it was more than that. It was about, young men in the program like Derek Brown that said, man, I'm a Lanier Longhorn, and I'm very proud of that. And so that's what we're going to try to build here at Jackson County.
Certainly, and then you guys had offensive stars too. And you guys really built that. You mentioned Lanier wasn't necessarily an old school. You guys helped build it from the ground up. But I'm looking at this region you guys are going to be in next season. I think it's outstanding. it 100% will be competitive top to bottom. So, I mean, what's that just challenge looking like, and how do you guys put yourself in that position to kind of use this off season to kind of build that foundation that's going to be needed to battle through Region 8?
Yeah, I think when you look at Jackson County's record last year, other than a couple of games there, a lot of those were one-score deals, and it's a pretty young group, and so that's exciting, right? But again, it's going to be about what are we willing to do in the weight room, what are we willing to do on the practice field to kind of take that next step. So, from a region standpoint, very competitive. Not just Gainesville, North Forsyth, I believe, made a little playoff run. They're obviously known for being a very physical, kind of hit you in the mouth type of team, and that's who we want to be. We feel like we have those kind of kids, and again, a very competitive region. You throw Shiloh in there, and really top to bottom, a very competitive region. We're gonna have to show up every Friday night to have a chance, so to speak, and excited about that challenge.
Yep, and then spring practice is obviously an important portion for evaluation, but I'm looking just at all these coaching changes, all these first-year coaches. I feel like the strategy is going to differ. Some aren't going to do the scrimmages. A lot of teams, you're going to have all these guys playing two sports, so they aren't going to play a scrimmage. But what's your overall strategy just when you approach this spring and you try to figure out kind of what the team's going to look like this year?
Yeah, so obviously spring's about getting your offensive defensive end from an install standpoint, but really it's more about the culture that you're creating. And I know the word culture is kind of thrown around, as a buzzword, but the reality of that is, what's your program going to be about? What are the standards? How are you going to practice? How are you going to put your uniform on? Even for practice, those things matter. So we do right now have a scrimmage that's scheduled. I think it's always great to. It's one thing to be a practice guy, but now we can evaluate those guys and see how they compete. We certainly won't have everything in because we'll use the summer to do that. Right now, scheduled to scrimmage Winder Barrow, which I think will be a great test for us, and hopefully that doesn't change. But I think it's always great to have an opportunity to compete, and so we'll do that. But spring's going to be more about us than anything.
Yeah, Winder, they're a team that always seems to be in close games. I mean, even when they get into the playoffs as a 4 seed, a 3 seed, it's like you look at their results, they're in it every single week. So I think that'll be a great scrimmage. But overall, I mean, what has the first month been like? Just meeting the players, getting them excited, and just the overall buzz at the school right now?
Yeah, they've been super receptive, and really just started from day one in January in the weight room. And again, that's where you're always going to start. Very excited about the faculty we have here. Very excited about some of the coaches that are already on staff. And then as we continue to build, trying to put a dynamic staff together that our young men deserve, and then also start that whole process of them understanding what the expectation is. But once we get out of that honeymoon phase, it's going to be what are we really about, and not sure how long that lasts. Usually it's a couple months. So trying to make sure we set things in place for this thing to be successful. But just an exciting time to be a Panther, and again, really excited about the young men we have in our program.
Yep, and you talked about it being a destination, but just last question, you've been in the hallways. I mean, when you look at some of the guys you have coming out, I mean, are you seeing the speed, seeing the size, the potential just with this group to go out there and play what's going to be a really exciting schedule next year?
I think so. There's some guys that are walking the halls that the new coach is always going to try to talk into coming out that maybe haven't played. Our numbers are very strong. Last year there were 120 players, 9 through 12. We anticipate that there'll be upwards to 130 this year. It's going to help us. We're going to create a full and ninth grade schedule, I think, for the first time in Jackson County history, and play 7 games with those guys. Ninth grade team had 1 loss. The JV team was undefeated, and then our current 8th graders were champions of their league as well. So, man, some really fun. I was able to get to middle school yesterday, and there were 50 plus rising 9th graders in that middle school that are kind of beaming with the potential, and that's what it's all about, man. It's not about We're not going to turn kids away. Don't get me wrong, but it's not about the big timer that's transferring to your program. It's about development. High school football is supposed to be about development, and so I think probably the most rewarding thing as a high school football coach is to watch that young freshman, excel and grow the way they're supposed to, and by the time they're juniors and seniors, be a major contributor for their team. And again, football's still the greatest team game out there, and so we're excited about those guys becoming Panthers.
Amen to that. All right, well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have you back in Georgia. We will be looking at what the Panthers are going to do this season. I know it will be an exciting spring and an exciting journey as you take over this Panthers program. So thank you so much for coming on, Coach.
Yes, sir. Always a pleasure.
Yep, you bet. All right. Go Panthers. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about them later in the show. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. So once again, I want to thank Coach Mobbs for coming on, talking about the Panthers and Jackson County. And I didn't realize they were up in 6A from 2A that quickly. I knew they were in Gainesville's region last year, North Forsyth, but he talked about the population growth. He was not kidding. And then those roster sizes, that's really exciting. So team to watch for sure, Jackson County, to see what they do year one under Coach Mobbs. But we're going to go to the basketball season now. It's in full swing, and we have Cambridge head coach Shanteona about to join the show. She is, I'm going to ask her, but I think it's like 4 or 5 years she's been there. They were in 6A last year. They're in 5A this season in a really competitive region. I mean, they're playing top brass in Class 5A, and we are ready to go. Coach Keys, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you, Craig?
I'm doing great. So, yeah, Jordan said he saw you play against North Springs I think it was a week ago, and you guys looked really good. He's going to talk about that on the other side. But, I mean, just talk about what you've been able to do at Cambridge so far, what it's like coaching in Georgia. There's so many talented teams, just what this process has been like for you.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. I never expected to be coaching high school. But I've had such a great time. I've been around this program for a while. Like you mentioned, I've been here 4 or 5 years, but at different stints. So about 3 years ago, I was an assistant on the staff for 3 years. And then I went to feeder for 3 years and did that for Cambridge as well. And so now I'm back up here at varsity. The opportunity presented itself, and I'm glad to be here. Like I said, I've known all these kids for years, so it's been cool to coach them and, lead them this year.
That's awesome. And I want to go back to your college playing days. I mean, I was looking at all the things you were involved with, whether it was the conference. I think you were like an ambassador for the Peach Belt Conference. You were so involved with all that. So what did that kind of teach you just about the sport of basketball and kind of what it takes to make things, or what's the term, but make the wheels turn, just everything that goes into the behind the scenes and just the support?
Yeah, so college basketball for me, I had a great career at Georgia College. It was a perfect place for me to flourish. I learned so much as a leader that I even use, with coaching today. So had a great career there I came in with like 8 other freshmen, I think. But so a lot of tough lessons learned that way, but a lot of great memories that I have. I've been in weddings for my teammates. I see them at least, a couple times a year. So just like an invaluable experience that I had there that I think prepared me for the opportunity that I have now. But you're talking about National SAC, Student Athlete Advisory Committee. I was on that for 3 years when I was at Georgia College. got nominated and was able to serve on that at the NCAA office, the headquarters, and just be the voice for Peach Belt athletes while I was there. So again, and that's led me to other opportunities. I'm now part of the Knight Commission, and that's not possible if I didn't do National SAC back then and had an interest in advancing collegiate athletics.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I mean, they have this goal, they want to play in college. I mean, you show up, you become a 4-year starter, and then it looks like you just took all these opportunities. In my mind, that just shows like you were just a good teammate. You're just a team player. You're trying to just do whatever it takes to lift up the program, lift up your teammates. So how did you kind of grow into a leadership role at college like that?
Well, I think I've always been, no matter where I was some form of a leader, whether good or bad. I can remember literally being in first grade and telling everybody that the motion sensors on the toilets, that they were spying on us. And I just got everyone in the bathroom to, cover the toilets. All that being said, I think from an early age I was being influential. But college kind of fine-tuned a lot of the skills that I had already been kind of working on. I was in student council when I was in high school, so it wasn't abnormal for me to be in a leadership role. You just hear the bell.
Yep. That dreaded bell.
Yeah, that dreaded bell. But I think I was preparing for life after college. It was honestly just like a boot camp or an academy for leadership. I think college athletics is or sports in general, perfect breeding ground for leaders. And the statistics show that, so many of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies come from athletics. So, I just think it molded me into the player I am today, the coach I am today, wanting to always show up and pursue excellence. I learned that through sport and learned that through becoming a leader in college.
Yeah, and being a college athlete is not easy. And so I'm sure for you, I mean, when you're obviously still involved in the game, but when you just think back to how formative that experience was for you, just being on the clock like that, all the responsibilities, you seem to understand that even though you were making that 4.0, involved in all this other stuff, I mean, basketball really meant something to you. So just from a playing standpoint and athletics, I mean, how key do you feel like playing a sport is just in the life of a young student?
Oh gosh, I'm such an advocate for for me, my mission is keeping girls in sport because they drop out at such a high rate at such a young age. But I do that because I know how fundamental sports were in making me a strong, independent person as an adult. I am not the same person I am today without athletics. I came to basketball pretty late. I was in 6th grade. Most kids, start a bit earlier than that. But I owe everything that I've accomplished in life. I don't know if I would have done it the same way without athletics. Working hard. Again, the idea of like pursuing excellence every day and being disciplined, it's invaluable. And I work in a high school and I can see it daily. I've actually been getting on the kids this week about like this idea of like being comfortable with mediocrity. It's insane to me. I hate the idea of it, and I see it too often. And so I have that mindset because I come from sports where you're having to do that every day because you're pursuing these different goals to win, to be a good teammate, to a championship, whatever it is. The only way that happens is putting in the work. And so, I owed so much of, my work ethic to sports. My passion obviously happened to be basketball, and I was able to pursue it in that way. But I'm not who I am without it.
100%. And I feel like if you put in that all-out effort, I mean, even if the results don't go your way, it's like that's where that bond comes from. You talked about going to your friends and former teammates' weddings. Like, I mean, I haven't been to many weddings, but it's like when I see a Rennie Curran, we can laugh about mat drills and just how bad they were and how awful it was all those years later. So the good and the bad, the wins and the losses, you put in that work, that's where that bond comes. But recently you were recognized by Roswell. I know that was really exciting. You go into their Athletic Hall of Fame. Let's talk about what that was like, just them reaching out, just how surprised, honored, pleased you were, and just who else kind of went in that class with you?
Yeah, no, it was a surprise to me. I got the letter in the mail, and I'm one of those people, like, some of my mail still goes not to my house, to my mother's house. But got it super late and opened it up, and I thought it might have been a mistake. I thought my sister, they may have meant to give it to my sister. Because I know, sometimes those committees are a bit detached for, when it's been 10 years, you just never know. And so I get mistaken for my sister so often that I thought maybe, they got the name wrong. Because my sister is one of the leading scorers in history, the number one leading scorer in Roswell history. And I think, now I'm probably like fourth or fifth, depending on what my sister did. But that being said, I legitimately thought, well, my sister would go in before I did. Now, I know the rules now, so that wasn't the case. But so yeah, I was shocked by it, but obviously very honored. I love Roswell High School. I still live in the area, so love to support their program. And so to hear that I was going in was just an honor. I had so many former middle school teammates, high school teammates show up for me, friends from high school that came to support me, coaches that I see literally. So I got hired here by Coach Bravo. She was my coach at Roswell High School. I have lunch every day with Coach Masinko, who was my assistant coach. She now works here. So still connected with a lot of those coaches that had an impact on me at Roswell High School. But yeah, I went in with some people who were considerably older than me, but there were some who were there when I was in high school as well. Richie Leone, he was a kicker at Roswell High School on that championship team, I believe, when I was in high school. So great company, a great evening, being able to celebrate with friends and family and the other inductees.
Awesome. Well, let's get down to business real quick on this upcoming schedule. You guys are in a really exciting region. You guys were 6A last year, 5A this year. You guys have played a lot of the teams you're going to have to play down the stretch already. So, I mean, how key are these next 2 weeks going to be?
Yeah, they're huge. And, everybody's kind of felt each other out and knows kind of what to expect. I think these next couple of weeks may be difficult just in terms, you got nagging injuries, you got more advanced scouting reports. Things are going to be a little different than that first time around because, you have all this film, this specific film to review from these opponents. So it's huge and where we want to end up at the end of the season. We have a really tough region in this top half, especially. We've got the best team in the state, according to the rankings, in our region. Very tough Kell basketball team. So, if we want to shake things up, we're going to have to work really hard the next couple of weeks. The biggest thing is preparing during practice. It all happens there. It doesn't happen at the game. So we got some big practices ahead of us right now.
Yeah, and Kell, not only are they the talented this year, they're a hungry team because they've fallen short, and this is a really big year for them. I know that's going to be an outstanding matchup, and when you just look at these region standings, yeah, Kell's at the top, but then you guys, whether it's Creekview, GAC, I mean, Chattahoochee's up there, there's really a lot of competition in there, so you can't take any games off. But I wanted to ask you, when you have, just as a coach, like a close loss or a close win, do you see it more of how you guys handled it down the stretch, or like we talked to Grayson's coach yesterday, he was talking about how you lose the close game. He's like, it's turnovers early, it's missing free throws early. It's like he sees it more as like any given play could cost you down the stretch. Do you see it like that, or do you see it execution like in the final moments?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that, Coach. So many losses, you feel like come down to a possession, and so rarely is that the case. I mean, of course it does happen. It certainly does happen. You're trading blows all game, and it just came down to the last possession. But there is that cumulative idea that, if we play this game well beginning to end, right, you usually find yourself in a good place. And it usually doesn't come down to just that last minute. Like the Creekview game that you just mentioned them as an opponent for us. They're not in our region, but we lost a 1-point game to them at their place earlier in the season. And you could come down to that last possession. We hedged and they dumped the ball inside, and you can talk about the bad help side defense that was not there, right? But the reality is we did not play a complete game. We barely played a complete quarter that game where I felt like we did the things we needed to do to help defense that wasn't there. That possession wasn't there at all during the game. So you can look at any possession you like to and point to help defense if you really wanted to. So, I think it's all super cumulative. And we've got to tighten up in a lot of areas before the playoffs start.
Yeah, that's right. Creekview is non-region. You guys did play them earlier. It's more of just, I guess, a little rivalry, a good quality opponent to spatter in.
Well, so
down the stretch.
they were last year. They
Okay.
were last year, and so we still have them on the schedule, home and away. Just two basketball programs that have decided to play home and away, and I'm glad because they present a different look than some teams in our region. A lot of the top half of the region, we play relatively similarly. We're trying to push the ball, whereas Creekview is more methodical in the half court. So it presents a new problem for us. They're hungry for the ball. I've been trying to instill that since our Centennial loss the other day, just like toughness and getting after it. So I think it'll be a good matchup tomorrow to see kind of where we are.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just, I can't imagine coaching a game. There's so much going on. We were talking, Najee was bringing up Grayson, who had played the Cowboys, and he was talking about how they got basically thrown multiple different looks in terms of their press. It's like not only were they a press team, they had different variations of it, and then they would have to try to adjust, and if it didn't adjust, the dam would break, and then the other team would go on a huge run. So in terms of your roster, though, I mean, who do you feel has that ability to just be in the eye of the storm, handle the pressure of a hostile environment, and just get you guys through some of these just really tough and athletic defenses?
Yeah, so our best player on both ends of the floor, Jordan Dudley. I mean, she's a spectacular athlete. If anybody's familiar with our program or familiar with 6A, the girls at the top or the elite girls, Jordan Dudley is our go-to in terms of that. She has athleticism. Her quickness is astounding. I mean, literally, if you've never seen it in person, it means something to marvel at. She's a incredibly elite soccer player, so that's her number one sport, but she's played both sports at a high level her entire life. She's actually right now away at the U.S. Youth National Team training camp for the U20. So she's practicing with, some pros. She's practicing with college kids. So when I say athleticism is something special, she is that. And so, you're talking about a press. That Jordan is our press. I mean, we have obviously so many other factors, but the scary part of our press is Jordan at the top. So, I like our chances when she's there. And she's definitely our go-to. But we have other great players. Grace Bear's another senior that we have. She's been a monster for us on the boards, especially while Jordan has been away playing soccer. So, we've got kids who are competitive. We got kids who are tough, just getting after it.
Yeah, and I see that just throughout the Cambridge program. I'm so impressed. I mean, all the different sports are so good. There's always multi-sport stars. I mean, the football team's exciting, the golf team, the lacrosse team. I mean, I could just go on. Soccer, track, cross country. I mean, it is one of the top spots for athletics. So just in terms of these girls building that that platform where you're having girls going on to the next level, continuing their careers. I mean, how kind of established has that been, and how bright is the future in that department?
Yeah, so I believe we have, in terms of basketball, we've sent, I believe, one, Angelina Cofrancesco. She went to Georgia College, where I went to school. No relation. I did not get her there by any means. I wasn't even coaching here at the time. But she's gone on to play at Georgia College. And then we have Nadia Ballrath from our current roster is going to play at Brenau next year. And so we're hoping in the future that we're building, athletes who want to go on and play basketball at the next level. But right now, we have 3 athletes signed to play at the next level. Jordan Dudley going to FSU to play soccer. Grace Bear, that I mentioned, the monster on the boards, she's going to play at App State for softball. And then you have Nadia, who's going to play at Brenau. And so we're sending kids to programs. They just may not always be basketball right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But we're hoping that that's something in the future,
And
certainly.
then last question. You've been in the gym. I know you're busy coaching, but is the shot still good?
Oh, come on. Do you know I'm spanking these kids in shootouts? I mean, like literally every week. I'm not even sure I've lost more than 2 games all year. So, but I did took an elbow to the nose during a pickup game a couple weeks ago, and so I may not be playing pickup anymore here. But shooting wise, oh yeah, it's there.
Yeah, technical foul, unacceptable. That's awesome. Well, Keys, thank you so much for coming on. Just good luck the rest of the year. We will definitely be watching you guys. We'll take a look into that roster. So many big games. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for coming on. Hope you have a great week.
Yes, thank you, and so good to see you, Craig.
You too. All right. So there goes Coach Keys. That was exciting. And yeah, when she was at Roswell, she was a top 3-point threat as a guard. I think she shot close to 40% and then continued the same thing. So just an aggressive ball handler, great defensive player, and always had the 3 ball going. So congratulations to her. But we will take one more quick break, and then we'll be joined on the other side by Jordan.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, welcome back. Yeah, Najee just told me some crazy college football story about Jaden Rashada. A broken deal, an NL deal, some valuation of like $14 million over 4 years, and then people describing it are using profane language that I cannot say, but I'll have to look into that. That's wild.
Yeah, and then they said Blake Corum, Michigan running back. They said he could get a 7-figure deal next year.
And yeah, a 7-figure deal potentially for Michigan's running back. So, as usual, things are just going absolutely bonkers at the college level with all the NIL stuff. And so we'll be looking at that for sure. Transfer portal is still hot. And just another reminder, we got signing day coming up. The big thing that I like to track and the trend I look at is when you get about a week or 2 weeks out of signing day, you look at where the teams rank in terms of their overall class and then see how they end up. So right now, Georgia Tech's at like 52, 55th in the country, meaning they still have a lot more space to fill. If they make a jump to the back 20 or 25th, 22nd, it's where they usually end up. I mean, that's really exciting, and it shows kind of what their strategy is to come in late, get those 3-star and 4-star guys. I think you don't necessarily need 5 stars to build a good recruiting class. If you go heavy defensively or offensively, just kind of solidify one position group with a lot of depth, that could be the move. But do we have Jordan coming up? Awesome. All right, Jordan, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? I just landed in Miami for a wedding this weekend.
Nice.
Two weddings.
Yeah, whose wedding?
Yeah. It's my cousin Allison's wedding.
That's awesome. Is the wedding tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, are you going to be able to watch the games? I'm just kidding. No,
I'll be
focus
able
on
to
the
watch
wedding.
them.
But yeah, so Jordan, I brought you on. First, I guess we'll talk about what you saw when you went to that Cambridge girls game against North Springs. Looks like that was a pretty significant win. Coach Keys was talking about some of her girls, described them a lot of just really tough athletes that are actually going on to play other sports. So they just have a really athletic team overall. What did you see from the Bears, though?
They were really athletic. They scored a lot of points in that game. And they have a really great team. I'm expecting them to do big things the rest of the season. Coach Keith has been they execute the plays and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Key's also just such a great leader. They won that game 62-28. I was looking back at last season. They lost a really tough 1-point game to Rome in the first round of the playoffs. That was back when they were in 6A. So I feel like if they pick up a win and get rolling in the playoffs, I mean that's what they need to do. Get that confidence, and then you look at the region. They're in there with Kell, who many are saying is the #1 team in the state, a team that has fallen short, I believe, to the previous state championship the last 3 years. All of those girls were freshmen the first year, sophomores, now they're seniors. But if Cambridge comes in second in the region tournament, they're going to be on the opposite side of the bracket. They'd have a chance to go far and wouldn't match up with them until the final round. But what else have you seen just in the basketball season, just across the state? And then what do you think we're going to see just in the playoffs with, 7A's loaded on the boys' side? There's just a lot of great teams.
The North Spring guys have been doing great this year. They won. They beat the Cambridge boys team, which was a really great game. They have a lot of returning players for North Spring for the guys.
Yeah, I really like just the region North Springs is in, just obviously in all sports, but you got GAC, Kell, Northview, Chattahoochee, Centennial. Those are some great teams, exciting rivalries as well. One of the other hot button topics we've been talking about, and obviously this week especially, is all the coaching changes across the state. It's been so incredibly busy, just constantly updating our list. I talked to you about Coach Stevens at McEachern, going back to Burke County. What do you think about that opportunity at McEachern, and then what it's going to take? Because that's a team, they've never won a state title. They've always had so many outstanding players go on to the next level. So, I mean, how big is that position going to be for someone to come in and try to get the Indians to the promised land?
It's huge for McEachern head coach position to open up. Coach Franklin Stevens did a great job with that team. Whoever takes that job has some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and then let's talk about the Grayson one. That one just happened. They actually are hiring Centavius Bryant. He was on Gainesville staff last year, and then he was at Grayson before Gainesville. So I think that's exciting. You hire a guy that's familiar with the Grayson program and then just had all this success at Gainesville last year. So, I mean, Coach Bryant, his first ever head coaching job is going to be Grayson. That's really exciting.
I'm excited to see what he does at Grayson. I know they're going to be playing in Corky Co this year. That should be a good game against us.
Great point. Playing Walton, right? Yeah, Grayson against Walton out the gates. Yeah, game of the week. And he's the defensive passing game coordinator at Gainesville, so he's definitely going to need a good defensive strategy against Jeremy Hecklinski, Coach Bruner, and that Raiders attack. So you said it right there. That game I'm already excited for. And that one's going to be at Mercedes-Benz. Saturday at 7 at Mercedes-Benz. Yeah, let's go. Jordan, we haven't gotten a chance to talk about Georgia winning back-to-back. Obviously, you saw the Ohio State game. That was crazy, but what did you think of that smackdown in the state championship? Sorry, state. I'm so used to high school. The national championship game.
Smacked. I love that smackdown Georgia gave to TCU. Needed to win a second championship for the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I never expected that. I was telling Najee, I was like, yeah, they'll probably go up 2 touchdowns, be in control the whole game. And then I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is one of the biggest blowouts I've ever seen in my life. I mean, that was insane. Do you think the Dogs can do it again next year, a three-peat, or do you expect a team like Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State to try to take the crown away?
I think Georgia can do a third repeat. I have faith in them. They have a lot of returning player back.
Yeah, Najee's shaking his head. We don't know who he's going to pick, but that'd be quite the feat for sure. I mean, all those players they've replaced. But let's talk a little bit about the NFL because, I mean, we've got NFL action tomorrow and Sunday. It's exciting. It's
We didn't.
Sorry, what did we miss? Sorry, Jordan, you broke up for a second. What did you say?
So another coaching change we didn't talk about was North Gwinnett.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about that first,
We
and that actually has
didn't talk
implications with college.
about Bill Stewart in North Gwinnett.
Yeah, so I thought that was really surprising. What'd you think of him making the move to go to Georgia Tech, though? Looks like it got delayed. I don't want to interrupt Jordan. Let's see if we can get him to call back in real quick. I got a little ahead of myself. Wanted to talk NFL with Jordan.
You got to be excited.
I know.
It's going to be a good weekend. Divisional rounds are the best round in football.
Yeah, Najee said it. This is a great point. Divisional round is the best.
There's so much. It's
Yeah.
intensity. You play right before the big
You got the
game.
double headers on Saturday, doubleheader on Sunday, and then at that point you win that, you're only 2 wins away. So this is it. I think it's going to be exciting, just with what Jacksonville's been doing, finding incredible ways to win. The Chiefs have, in my eyes, they play close games all the time. They don't necessarily try to win by blowing teams out. They're obviously great down the stretch, but you have a team like Jacksonville with a good defense. They keep it close, and I always think what's so dangerous about a team like them is when they get into that part of the game where they can trade a 2-for-1. So it's like if they're down 14, they can come back because all they need a touchdown. The defense is equipped to make a stop, and then they can come down and tie it back up. So they have that ability to swing the game late. That's how they've been able to win so many close games, come back from that slow start to the season, and then find themselves at this position. I think it will be a close one in that. And then the Bengals-Bills, that's coming down to Joe Burrow, that Bengals offense. He's been outstanding. He's a true winner. But the last few games, he's only gone for about 1 touchdown through the air. They haven't had that explosive game where he's just in control the entire time. And then I also think the Bills haven't played up to what their expectations have been set at either this year. They keep turning the ball over. They're taking sacks. Josh Allen not only has thrown interceptions, he's fumbled multiple times. Miami gave them a heck of a game if it weren't for that poor execution down the stretch. Them not even being able to get a playoff in that 4th and inches scenario, and then having to settle for a long 4th and 5.5. So I think with the Bengals, they have obviously the injuries on their offensive line. They have a defense that, as Najee points out, has been really clutch for them this year. They've rotated a ton of guys. What do you think their best defensive game was? What was that one you said that really helped win them that game?
I'd say New England.
The New England game?
Because if they don't get that fumble by Von Bell,
The Von Bell fumble recovery.
no, they've carried us 3 weeks in a row. I mean,
Yep.
Look at that Ravens game. It was 34% win percentage. He does a 14-point turnaround and takes it all the way 98 yards.
That's right. You look at their overall season, Najee is spot on with that. They've had these big defensive plays. So it's not just that they have a good 4-quarter effort. They have the big return in the Ravens game. How'd they beat the Chiefs? They stripped a fumble on Kelsey late. So they have a defense that comes up with those big plays, and you match it up with a Bengals team that's been coughing it up, throwing interceptions. Turnovers will be key. And then it's like with your defense eating like that, how aggressive is the offense going to be? Are they going to rely on the pass? Are they going to try to run the ball? I think there's just a lot of options for them. And then on the other side, I'm interested to see if the Eagles can look like the top team or if San Francisco will continue rolling with Brock Purdy. And then what will the Cowboys do after that win over a struggling Tampa Bay team? That was a big win for them. They were really excited, but it's back to business. That's a really tough matchup across the board. We'll see what Dak does in the spotlight, and then we'll see what the Giants do. Who am I taking? I'm taking – got to go with San Francisco. The overall roster, I like Christian McCaffrey, I like their dynamic offense, all the different things they're able to do. They don't really have to rely on one style. They always keep the other team off balance. And then defensively, they're great. I like Deebo Samuel. He's an absolute star. And then I think the team that's more likely to possibly pull off an upset would be the Giants over the Eagles. I do not think the Cowboys are going to upset San Francisco. I could be wrong. We'll see. But I'm picking San Francisco and Philadelphia. And then in the other one, I'm definitely going with the Chiefs, going with Mahomes. And then I keep saying I'm reluctant to pick the Bills, but with them saying that the game might be in Atlanta, people already trying to sell tickets for $2,000. I think the Bengals will cover, but I don't know. Something's going on. I don't know why the AFC Championship game would be played in Atlanta, but apparently that's what a coin flip determined. Who knows? I don't know. Someone's going to be making money from those ticket sales, and not the stadium that would typically be hosting that. So very interesting. I'm cheering for the Bengals, though. I'm cheering for the Chiefs. NFC, I don't really have a favorite. Yeah, I do want a rematch with the Bengals. It's just, as a Chiefs fan, though, let me just say this. You don't fear any team. It's like you know that you just have to play well. It's like it's such a luxury to be a Chiefs fan because you know they're going to have the play designs. There's no opponent in the league where, oh, man, this is a really tough matchup. It's the Chiefs. They come out. They've been represented in the AFC Championship game how many times since Mahomes has been here? I mean, they just keep getting it done. And just when you refer back to last year's divisional game against the Bills, 13 seconds, like, are you kidding me? You have a team that can find a way to win that game. Yeah, you don't have that worry. So I think a rematch will be tough. The Bengals do have our number. And as I said, the Chiefs have not blown out many opponents. I mean, for goodness sake, the Titans played them close. They didn't complete a single pass to a receiver the whole game. It's just you have good defense. You can potentially stop them. But I do think the Chiefs have done a good job getting more of these receivers involved. McKinnon's been outstanding out of the backfield. And then it's just the overall tempo of the offense, the experience of Mahomes, how they break the huddle, how they get up to the plays. As a defense, you don't have much time to get ready for the next down, and they're just aggressive. We talked about that. At this point, all these teams have to be aggressive. All the teams that are out of it now, guess what? You stumbled. You came out of the huddle late on fourth down. You were indecisive. You didn't make up your mind, and now you're out of it. You have to be ready to go for it on fourth down, be prepared. And I think that's what we're going to see with 2 days of outstanding matchups at the NFL level. But if you want more high school coverage, which is what we do, go to scoreatl.com. Najee has a great preview coming up of the Pace Academy McDonough boys basketball game. I think it's going to be the best game of the season, perhaps, tonight. You will want to find out what the result of this one is. Pace Academy, when Coach White was on, keeping it real with Najee yesterday, he made it clear they have one goal, that is a state championship. He said they were young last year, which if you look at the roster this year, how young they were, he's right. They were really young. They had freshmen and sophomores. Now it's sophomores and juniors. And so they are eyeing that state title for sure. They have so much talent, but I just think you look at how close every game against these top matchups have been for McDonough. They've been able to pull it out. They're aggressive at going to the basket. When the three ball's not working, they get to the line 20, 25 times. They shoot 85% from the line. They have all that experience. So it's just going to be completely star-powered. Both teams, championship aspirations. McDonough's trying to win their first ever this year. Pace Academy's trying to win. I think they already have a couple. And then, of course, Coach White, he, I think, won 5 or 6 at Miller Grove. And he pointed out to Najee yesterday, you guys need to watch that interview just to get a good idea of what Pace Academy is doing this year. He was talking about the point guards and how he runs 2 of them at once, which I thought was interesting because it reminded me when he was at Miller Grove. He had Tariq Gilbert. He had Keith Pinkney. Both were all-state outstanding point guards for him. Coach White has always had the good point guards. He's always developed them. They've gone on to do great things. I think Tariq Gilbert, I think he might be in the league, or let's see. Okay, he played at UConn, Wichita State, and then he is currently playing for the Latvian Estonian Basketball League professionally. He's only 25. He was an absolute stud for Miller Grove, but then same thing at Pace Academy now. He's got these dual young point guards. The future's bright, and you run a Sharman White team. You are the real deal. So we will see who wins that one. For sure, go to scoreatail.com. We'll have more coverage, and we'll be returning on Monday. So thank you so much for joining us. Have a good weekend.